Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the latest in our series of the Move Exchange webinars, where today we're going to look at how a mystery shopping exercise can help you convert more inbound inquiries. For those of you that aren't aware or haven't come across the Move Exchange before, we act as a conveyancing quote conversion business for a number of law firms up and down the country. Quote conversion is our bread and butter. We are trained in the sales psychology by Professor Ian Cooper, so we're doing this day in, day out for law firms. And what we really want to do today is look at how mystery shopping can help you convert more of your inbound inquiries and ultimately drive that bottom line. My name is Tom Lees. I'm Key Relationship Manager here at the Practical Vision Network. I'm joined by my colleague Sarah Brocklebank. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
Sarah is our Client Relationship Manager of the Move Exchange and runs the Move Exchange as a business on a day-to-day basis. So quick jump into the agenda. So first of all, we are going to look at what is a mystery shop. We're going to talk about the advantages for you as a business of mystery shopping. We'll look through an example of our mystery shopping report, and then we'll talk about how you can use that report to sort of drive conversion rates. And then at the end, we've got a special offer that we can give you in relation to mystery shopping too. There are two documents that I've included as handouts on the software, which are a copy of the slides and also a copy of the example report that we're going to look at, which you might like to bring up when we get to that point. There's also a questions box on the webinar, so if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in, and Sarah and I will be sure to come back to you or answer them at the end if we've got the time to do so. So let's start, Sarah, by taking a look at what is a mystery shop. Talk us through sort of how your team define what a mystery shop is.
Sure. So I just wanted to start off by saying that quote conversion is what the Move Exchange team do every day. So this isn't just theory for us, but it's something we do every day and is our bread and butter. So after speaking to a firm initially and understanding their structure, we will call the allocated firm as a mystery shopper and let them guide us through the call. It's important for us not to prompt for questions or information during the call, as we want to get a real feel for how new inquiries are dealt with from that call handler. These are also really useful tools for you to review staff performance and also to measure your success against. If you provide staff training for quoting and conversion, this will also help to ensure that a training is being used effectively and to its full potential. If you don't provide training, this can be a useful tool for training for you. So mystery shopping is a fantastic way to step into your client's shoes and see what the journey looks like from the perspective of a new client. It's also good to see what your usual practice looks like. We often find that partners and directors, anyone like that, often have a separate idea of what their firm, how their firm, conduct quote inquiries. Things like, are you providing fee estimates over the phone? Are you asking for the work at the end of the calls? Anything like that.
One of the things that we often find when we are instructed to carry out mystery shops is that it'll often be the first time that a firm has looked at this. So what Sarah mentioned there is that you may not have a training program as such, but you'll be able to use the mystery shop to almost kickstart that training program and almost to really drive that particular element. And another thing I think is really important is the ability to be able to step into your client's shoes. The conveyancing world is changing at quite a fast pace, and what customers want from conveyancing is very different from what they wanted, and probably even 5 years ago now, never mind 10 years ago. So I think being able to see that journey from their perspective and follow that, and not just mystery shopping on the phone either, but think of things that you can do easily about mystery shopping via email, sending through an email inquiry, how quickly is that picked up? How quickly is that dealt with? There's lots of ways you can really explore the angle and the best practice that comes from mystery shopping. Advantages of a mystery shop, well, we've just alluded to one of them, which is the ability to step into your client's shoes. Sarah, talk us through some more. And these are advantages that people have fed back to us that they've found useful once they've obviously used the mystery shops accordingly.
That's right. So we will provide reports based on 4 calls. We find that this helps get a real feel for your firm's processes and really understand how these inquiries are dealt with, rather than just catching someone on an off day or anything like that. We conduct all the 4 calls on different days and also at different times of the day, so we get a real feel of the processes, like we say. This can also help assess your firm's ability to convert conveyancing leads. We mark the calls based on a 5-step sales psychology training from Professor Ian and Howard Cooper. This training has proven results, and we'll go into more detail about that in a little while when we show you the example report. All of our calls are recorded, and this can be sent to you with the report for your listening. Again, this can be a key training tool for both positive calls and calls that need a little work. This is also how I help to train up my guys. I'll have them listening to their calls and marking their own calls and saying what they think they could tweak and what they think they did well on them calls. So we can help you understand key areas for improvement and provide tips on how to do this and useful sort of phrases. And we also provide a really neutral perspective and unbiased report. This is really important, as we don't know the person we're speaking to, so we can't be biased towards that in any way.
And I think from the neutral angle, many of you may have conducted mystery shops on the departments that you managed before, but I think one of the things that's difficult from that is you'll have a pretty strong opinion of either strengths and weaknesses of that individual, and naturally you're probably going to err towards driving one of those two. So being able to do this from a completely neutral viewpoint will give you a much cleaner and crisper picture with regards to the outcomes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you an example of one of our mystery shopping reports. So I've attached this for everybody on the handout section, but you'll obviously be able to see it on the screen as well. So what we're going to do here is Sarah's just going to talk you through what our mystery shopping report looks like and what's included within one of our mystery shopping reports.
Yep, so this report is our foundation report. So this is our sort of initial report that we would recommend. The first section is just basic details. So the firm we called, and if they have a specific branch or if they have different branches that we've shut, we'll pop in there which branch that was. Basic details of the date and time, the name we used, and basic transaction details for the call as well. So moving on to the results. So as we said earlier, these are based on the 5-step process. Although we understand that not everyone uses these processes, due to them having proven results, we would recommend using this as sort of a basic flow to go from. So step 1 would be the initial conversation and setting an agenda. So as well as setting an agenda, we'd like to see the call handler sort of advising what is going to happen on the call and how long that was going to take. We also take into consideration did we call through to reception, were we transferred to conveyancing, how many times were we transferred, how many times were on hold, did the call handlers introduce themselves to us, anything like that. Step 2 is building a rapport. So although this is step 2 on the report, this can be done throughout the call. So it's based on questions outside of the basic transactional questions. So this is a really good way to understand your client's circumstances and really understand the factors behind the move. And this can also help you link your firm's strengths to the client needs. So building rapport is quite an important one.
And I think when we talk about building rapport, I think it's really important to focus what good actually looks like. I think sometimes, Sarah, I know from my experience, people can maybe confuse building rapport with being nice and friendly and being really chatty, but actually not asking the right type of questions.
Exactly.
In that ultimately your rapport build as a law firm, the client is going to view you as someone that is trusted, and that they can rely on for help. People don't move house every single day of the week. This is something that's probably quite new to them. So you're in a real advantage from that perspective. It's that you can give them lots of information that will help them. And I think one of the things that you're looking to do from a building rapport perspective is to really understand the motive for why that client is moving, what are their actual requirements. And I think sometimes you can see building rapport blurred a little bit, and that they'd be wonderfully friendly and wonderfully chatting, and may take the call off in a completely different direction. But actually, it's important to remember you really got to drill into the motives behind that person's circumstances, and that will then feed on to do the things that Sarah's going to talk about now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tom. Being friendly isn't necessarily building rapport. And like you say, it's understanding the factors behind a move. This can be quite a big thing for some people. So, asking quite big open questions, do you mind me asking what's prompted the move? You're getting factors behind the move, and you're getting a bit more personable than just going through the transaction.
And one of the things I was taught very early on was just because someone is moving doesn't mean it's good news. Remember, people can move through sad reasons. They can move through divorces, separations, deaths, the whole heap of bad things. So never try and build rapport by saying congratulations, because it may not be true.
Exactly, and it's showing empathy as well towards the client rather than them seeing this robotic sort of figure. So moving on to transactional questions. This one's quite straightforward and exactly what it says on the tin. It's basic questions about the property they're selling or buying. We often know a lot of firms that can lose out on a little bit of money as they've given a fee estimate and advise this is a fixed fee, and further down the line realise that it's a help to buy or a shared ownership, or the property's a new build and they haven't taken that into consideration. So if the client disputes that, they often find themselves at a little bit of a loss. And so here I'm just looking at what questions are asked if all them potential uplifts are taken into consideration at this stage. So step 4 is process and cost. So I'd like to hear the next steps. So what your firm's processes are, what the timescales are, how you would treat me as a client, and also if you're giving me a quote over the phone. And not only giving me a quote, are you giving me a breakdown of what the fees are? If I'm a first-time buyer, are you explaining these fees to me? All these things to make me feel at ease and really make you stand out from the crowd. And this is also really important, as without giving the process and cost, you can't really do the next step, which is asking for the work. So asking for the work is a really important one at the end of each call, and it's, as Tom's mentioned on previous webinars, that he's got some great advice, which is ask for the work and remain silent. So this really gives you a straight answer from the client, and it also helps your objection handle if needed. So if the client is unsure because they've had a cheaper quote, you can advise where the added value lies and use what you've learned from the rapport building to factor in at this stage.
And Sarah, in terms of the section 4 there, the process and the cost, how often are you seeing on mystery shopping that your team does people reverting back to, I'll send you an email with the quote, or I'll email the quote over?
A lot, actually. I would say a minimum of 80% would just send it by email. And I find this is the case when, for a couple of reasons, mainly time. If it's a fee earner, for example, given these quotes, they don't have time to go over the whole quoting process and do a breakdown, and they've just got in their mind they need to get back to their caseload. So yeah, quite often time or expertise. If you've got reception or anyone sort of support staff who wouldn't maybe know an answer to a question, so that they don't want to get asked questions they don't know the answer to. So yeah, I would say at least 80% revert to email, and around the 20% that do give a quote over the phone, it's rarely a full breakdown. Quite often it's just a grand total, and it's quite rushed. I'm not sure if it's sort of a staff confidence thing. But very, very few and far between actually ask for the work at the end of the call.
And that's such a great opportunity to use mystery shopping to get this right. I think sometimes, depending on who you've got doing your quote conversion, they might see this as some sort of revolution, but really when you look at it, it's a very minor tweak to what they're doing. Giving the quote probably shouldn't take much longer than a couple of minutes max. And then asking for the work is just finding a phrase or a sentence that fits that person's persona and fits that person's personality, and just being able to give them the confidence to do that. It is evolution rather than revolution, and that evolution can have pretty immediate impacts. This is a vital part of Professor Cooper's sales education and sales training, and like Sarah alluded to earlier, we know this works because we do it day in, day out, and we see the results for the firms that we work with. Follow up, Sarah, so talk us through what you'll sort of look at in the follow-up section.
Yeah, so initially we'll just see when that initial quote was received. So as we said earlier, most firms will just pop an email on a quote. Even if a quote is given over the phone, we would always recommend following that through with an email so they have it in writing. And we would also recommend sort of personalizing that email and making it a little bit more bespoke. So reference what you said on the call, and especially with your sort of rapport building and factors behind the move, linking your strengths, adding it all into your email for them. And also, was the follow-up arranged? So here, even if, you know, as well as telling the client what your next steps would be should they instruct with you, we need to find out what their next steps are. So do they have someone they need to speak to before committing to using yourself? Do they need to speak to a mortgage advisor, their estate agent? You can then arrange the follow-up once this has been carried out. So coming on to the feedback part of the form, as I said earlier, we have highlights, areas to note, and recommendations. Highlights are highlights throughout the call, and whatever we picked up on that we thought was exceptionally good, and whether they were just really friendly, whether I didn't feel rushed, good transactional questions to make sure that uplifts are really clear and had a clear understanding of what would be included in that price.
And I think it's really important to highlight, double worded there, it's really important to note that the highlights should be a vital part of the feedback RE mystery shopping. And that if you've got some really common themes that are working really well, and maybe individuals are doing certain things, it's really important that you try and get other people within the team to potentially do that, or praise them accordingly where they're doing something fantastically well, and look at how you might be able to use that in other members of the team too.
Absolutely. So areas to note are just little tweaks that might need looking at. So this could be, you know, a quote was, the price was given over the phone as a grand total, but there was no breakdown. So obviously it's good for the client to hear the full breakdown, because we all know that it's the legal fee that often is the main difference in firm to firm. And coming on to recommendations, so these are usually come off the areas to note, and we'd also give you little tips and phrases maybe on how to carry this out. And all of these are generally just little tweaks, like we say. So a little tweak can make a big difference in your conversion rate and how your law firm handles these new inquiries.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that, Sarah. Hopefully that's a really good summary of the mystery shopping report, which you'll all obviously have a copy of. What I want to do now, just before we sort of wrap up, is just really focus on how you can then use that report to drive your conversion rates. So Sarah mentioned earlier that as part of the report, we give you the recordings. Listening is a hugely powerful training and development tool, and is a great way for staff to be able to learn. And you can use this in lots of different ways. You can pick out good calls to help create and set an example of what you think good looks like for the business and for the team. And then you can also obviously use the mystery shopping recordings to drive improvement. There will be a bit of a painful start to that. People don't like listening to their own voice. I've got used to it over the years, but that first 15-20 seconds is still pretty painful, but once you get over that, I think it's a massively powerful training tool. Good examples can be used as a way to upskill fellow team members. So we kind of touched upon this a little bit in the mystery shopping report, but if you've got someone who's doing something really well and it's giving them either an advantage in their conversion rates or it's helping them win more business, then you need to make sure you have a look at what that good thing is and really try and embed that culturally into the team itself. Sarah's alluded to the fact that we do this on a day in, day out basis. Quote conversion is our bread and butter. These tips, if implemented correctly, will work. They will improve conversion. The 5-step sales psychology, which you saw, has been used in a number of conveyancing law firms, either through us or through Professor Cooper himself, and we know that will help you drive conversion. I think the other way you can use mystery shopping is if you're coming at this from a really fresh perspective, you maybe haven't got a robust training process, or there isn't much of a methodology, you can use the mystery shopping to begin to create that methodology and a robust process across that conveyancing quote conversion to give you the best chance of achieving success. In that you might not know where to start in terms of if it is fresh to you, this gives you the structure and the framework to then be able to take this forward and drive it on. So that's pretty much it from myself and Sarah, other than a couple of things to mention before we wrap up. So first of all is for those of you listening today, we would be happy to give you £100 plus VAT off the foundation report that Sarah went through with you. That would make the cost of that £150 plus VAT. Sarah, just before we go, just want to summarise what's included in that £150.
Yep, so they will get 4 reports based on the 4 cores. We'd also get a summary page of the 4 cores as a collective. We'll send you the PDF and the recordings of the results. And I also just wanted to point out at this stage that following a mystery shop report, if you choose to use any of the other Move Exchange services following this, then the cost of the report will be deducted from your first invoice.
And if you think you'd like to talk to us about potentially outsourcing quote conversion, then both myself and Sarah's contact details are on this last slide here, which we'll leave up on the screen. So please contact Sarah if you'd like to order a mystery shopping report. She can get the wheels in motion on that for you. And if you'd like to talk to us about the potential of outsourcing, even if it's for overflow, so you might already have a new business department, but occasionally you may struggle in terms of people going away or summer periods, I'm more than happy to engage in that conversation and help you any way we can. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Sarah, thank you very much for your contribution as always, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye.